Here we go. Oh my God, we're still just trying to get it right. And we'll be starting shortly. Do you know shortly? How are you going to start shortly?
I'm going to start longly.
Mr. Longley. Mr. Longley and Mr. Shortly. That'd be a good team. Call
Longly.
I did a thing, but no. We were talking. No, remind me about what I did with a couple of characters. 20, 23, 22, 21, 20, 19. Hi, this is Greg Hildebrandt. I've been a professional artist for 62 years. I've done a lot of artwork in that time, and I'm still just trying to get it right.
Hey, how you doing, Mr.
Good.
Hildebrandt?
Nice to see you.
Right. Good seeing you as well. So I guess we got our first question out of the way for our 20 questions. How are you?
Oh, yeah, that's good. Fine. Yeah. How are you? Is that two questions, or does that count? Or just you questioning me? Those are the only one. You only get. How come the genie? You only get 3 wishes. Remember? Do you ever see The Thief of Baghdad? I saw that film. It's one of the first primal films that I saw. It's the Korda brothers. There were 3 Hungarians that came to England and basically created the British film industry.
Okay.
And they did The Jungle Book. Sabu, he was an Indian young guy, I guess an attendant at a door at one of the hotels, and they put him in the movie. I went nuts for both of those movies, but especially The Thief of Baghdad. It was Rex Ingram as the genie. He was fantastic. But is a little tempting. How come there's only 3 wishes? I mean, what's the deal with that?
What? I don't know. I don't know if there's an actual answer to genie.
Somebody might know
lore, that. To, like a real, other than the practical thing of we have to put a limitation on it, so then it adds a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
And consideration of what you're asking for.
You don't do a stupid thing like Sabu did in the film, and just, geez, I'm hungry. I wish I had some sausage. Oh, there's one gone already.
Now, in I Dream of Genie, I remember seeing that show on like Nick at Night.
Yeah, I never really watched it,
but she was always there. Like, did he?
I don't remember. I don't know. I know that he's in the bottle. Sabu finds him on the beach, and and he rubs it, and he comes out. He's trying to clean it, I think, if I remember right. And Genie appears, and he's huge, because the Sabu's about this big in his hand.
Okay.
He's gigantic. He's incredible. Just great. Anyway.
So if anybody out there knows like Genie lore, right, by all means, please let us know if there's any real reason why they have the limit of 3 wishes other than just a plot device.
It should be at least 7, because everything's in 7s, right?
Yeah.
The 7th heaven, the 7th samurai, the 7th planet, the 7 dwarfs, the 7 deadly sins, the 7 days of the week.
Yeah, but for wishes of limitless stuff, that kind of seems excessive.
Too much. Be careful what you wish for.
That's right. So,
what
do you got going on, man?
This is one of my mad science pinups that I do. This one, I posed this, like, my God, there's a date I wrote around my initial sketch. It's like
2008?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was 12, 13 years ago. And I did a blackboard of it. I don't have it here, but 8, 9 years ago. So Gene and I were looking at a bunch of these things along with you, right? We were checking them all out. I did this is when we kind of like decided, well, let's do this because this is fun. I can get all kinds of different lighting effects, special effects in there. And I love doing that kind of thing. So, but that's not till I finish this one at Gene, which she hasn't seen. She posed, so she knows what she's getting. But this is a fast glimpse. I've been painting her.
There you go.
Whoops. Can you see this? I mean,
Yep.
That's just a fast thing. She wanted to be a vampire, so that'll be like with some blood stuff going on, and that'll be. So I'm doing that. When I finish that, I'll start this. I let them have a glimpse of it, Gene, just for the hell of it.
You won't let me see it.
But I loved it because I get.
Oh, make sure you don't watch this later.
Yeah, thanks.
There's I wanted to get that. I love that colored light, that blue light, and that there's a yellow light from the other edge and a blue light from the edge, and then a reddish tinged fill light to the whole thing. Which is kind of
cool.
I like playing, with colored light. You know that.
Yeah. So okay, I'm going to start with my first questions, which people can see on my list. I've got 2 words. So
I have in my hand a list of names.
So okay, you've got this pinup, right? We did a thing on your pinup stuff before and all that, right? But what does pinup mean to you? I know it's not strictly cheesecake and just the desire to paint women, which I mean,
that's there. It's just like a desire to paint anything. I don't know. I mean, it's primal for me because I remember the Gil Elgren and calendars that my grandfather had in the basement, and I just I went nuts for them. Not obviously with the girls once you become old enough, but it's the painting, the style of the paint applied, and it was always there in the back of my head. So I have that nostalgic thing about it. But then when I started them, Gene and I had a big discussion about how I should approach it. I think we've talked about this before. Take that, and we kind of landed on this take that I'm doing. But for me, it's kind of like it's retro. It's looking back in a way from now. In other words, I'm not trying to totally create the fact that if you were to see one of them, you say, "Oh my God, that's right out of 1945." I don't want that. I want it. It's contemporary, but also like a lot of film, we're fantasy films these days. It's like the Daredevil TV series. It's now, but it has a very retro noir feeling about it.
Yeah.
It's that kind of combination that was after. Then, generally speaking, I'm trying to tell a story with them, so it's not. I'm just not painting a woman against a white backdrop like say Vargas, and I love that. Don't take me wrong. It's not like there's anything wrong with it, but I chose not to do that. I wanted to. I've been illustrating all my life. I love telling stories, so I wanted to tell a story with the painting. Plus, for me, it's also satirical. I see pinup art as at least 50% satirical. It's a put on. You come out. You're exaggerating attitudes and in business. So there's a satire, and I remember I gave a talk once with one person, a woman. It was the first time I heard anybody recognize that she loved the humorous aspect of my pinup art. So I love the humor too.
Yeah.
That's like this to me. This is comic. To me, this is comedy. It's satirical. I mean, it's in the EC horror format, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I see it as much more comic. There's nothing really is going to happen,
You almost get the sense. I mean, it's obviously a full scene. You get the bad scientist going, but you kind of get the sense that everyone's in on the joke.
Yeah.
Right. She hangs out with that guy.
Exactly. They like to get into attitudes and poses and play. It's more playful.
It's cosplay.
Cosplay, exactly. Cosplay. Yeah, that's it right there.
All right. So one of the things that I've been thinking about and wondering in your career, right? When you're developing a piece of art, and I'm talking about commercial art here, right?
Mm-hmm.
When do you, like, if an art director wants a bunch of changes? Sorry, I'm not asking my question clearly here. If an art director comes and wants a bunch of changes, right? But that the changes they're asking for could be potentially detrimental to the work. Where do you draw the line of give and take and standing your ground? Or have you never had to deal with that?
Oh, I've dealt with it. Now Gene deals with it.
Yeah.
So I don't deal with it at all these days. Gene works out everything with a client, whether it be a publisher or an individual.
Mhm.
And, so she works it all out. And I do sketches then, and then work it out through my sketches with her to the client. In the past, I've had to do that. And I remember one vividly. He was an art director at Random House, and I won't name names. He's not alive anymore, but I remember I was doing a Disney book. Tim and I were doing a Disney book. Publishers hired, outside illustrators to do their stories. This would happen to be Cinderella. And Tim and I decided that we would do it in the same style as the movie, as close as we could, that 1950 animation look. And while everybody was doing the pencil sketch, flat color fill-in look, because that would happen to be the thing to do in the moment for a lot of these children's books, like Richard Scarry and stuff, very simple, beautifully done. But I chose to do it in this other fashion. And we were designing, that wasn't the point that the art director objected to, even though he did, kind of like, what are you doing this old-fashioned stuff for? He thought himself much more hip and contemporary, and not, this was old looking. This was the year that I was doing this would be 1970, 72, 73. And he thought, that looks like old Disney. We don't want that. He allowed it to go through. But anyway, my point was this: we're the Drizella and Anastasia, the sisters, stepsisters. They're trying to get the glass slipper onto their feet, and they've got these huge feet. And in the movie, they're bare feet. You can see all the toes and everything. So I do the sketches like that. And the art director said, no. I want to put socks on the feet. I want socks. I don't want all those toes sticking all out. And I said, and I kind of jokingly, said, you know what those feet will look like? He said, no, what? I said, they'll look like a salami. Just a big, long salami. He said, if you can't draw it to look like a foot, I'll find somebody who will. Boom. And there were other people in the room. And you kind of like look and you say, oh, Jesus Christ, you didn't have to say it like that. You know what I mean? I was trying to play around with this damn thing.
Yeah.
There would be moments like that. But for the most part, I never had a problem with an art director. We kind of they were all great people.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would, I remember one time we were doing a cover and we had the figures pointing, we wanted a profile. It was an action scene of giving a command and cannons firing. He just wanted this blasting, across. And we did the whole thing, and brought in the art director, even though he looked at the layout and okayed it. And he said, no, I want it all turned 3/4 at you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no computers back then, which I guess you could do it that way with a computer, right? Take the whole thing and turn it at you.
3D model.
Yeah, you just have to paint the whole damn thing all over again. There was no fixing anything.
Yeah.
But I would definitely, through Gene though, when people kind of may make a suggestion about something, and it isn't on the level of ego or argument for the sake of argument. I think it would destroy the composition. It would hurt the composition.
Mm-hmm.
It would hurt the storytelling. It would hurt the point that's trying to be made. Something like that I would argue about.
Okay. So then,
because the integrity of the image is primal to me.
Yeah.
How that thing's going to end up looking in print for whatever purpose it's going to be used for. Not this process of getting there. It's what's that finished thing. You got to make sure that that's all right here, so it gets to that final that you're happy with.
So, how do you balance ego with greater good?
I haven't thought about ego.
I haven't thrown out these. He doesn't know what I'm asking, so that's.
I don't. Do I? You know me.
I do know you.
Yeah. What do you think about me and ego?
Yeah, you don't.
You tell
have
me.
One. You don't have one.
We all do. I think.
To a point. Yep.
The thing is, here's the issue for me. Yeah. Does it run you, or do you run it?
Yeah.
Who's in control here?
Yeah.
It's a matter of control, right? It's a matter of control. That's all it comes down to.
Yeah. The most I've seen, I guess it could be boiled down to ego, but it would be a flare up for 10 to 15 seconds.
You mean when Gene comes in and points something out?
Yeah.
There's no ego. The thing you do that, we all do that.
Yes,
your
absolutely.
wife does that. I think for me, the main, as you said about Angela, your wife, that she's the most important person to satisfy with a piece of artwork.
Yes.
Well, I'm the same with Gene. She's the first and the last word in what I do.
Well,
it has been for over 40 years. So if she walks in and says, there's not that, oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
You get defensive. There's a kind of like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And it isn't, you're angry. It's not because I'm angry at her, even though there's a tension that all of a sudden kind of might erupt at times.
It comes out of being hurt.
Yeah, you know you screwed up. You know it isn't as it should what it should be. How did I blah blah blah. And I've talked about this before too. When you read about the best of the greats that I admire, like Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo,
Yeah.
she would do the same to him, and he would react blah blah blah. Then of course, do what she said.
So
No,
in the art business, again, not naming names or anything like that, but we do know there are people with massive egos.
Yeah, that always gets in the way. It's pointless. It's you. I don't. What's that about? I mean, I think that's like they're what? They're insecure. I think that's an insecurity. I think I'm not trying to play amateur shrink here, but I guess I am. I mean, why do you need to do that? What's the point of that? Why do you have to make other people miserable around you?
no.
It's like I watched a series, great series done on the History Channel. Good friend recommended highly. It's done in 2013. The Men Who Built America, and we're watching the section with Vanderbilt and Rockefeller and Carnegie, and each of those guys had their own thing, right? I mean, railroad, oil, electric, and yet they rather than getting together with each other, all of them merging their talents, their obsessions, their abilities, their money to build together something which they could have, to me, in my opinion, could have achieved even greater than what they achieved. They battled with one another, that beat each other down so they could be number one. Number one, what the fuck does that mean? That's why, like, awards to me, the best movie. How the hell can anybody land on one movie and say that's the best movie of the year? It's impossible. It's bullshit, right? Or a painting or a drawing in an art show, first prize.
First prize.
It's anyway. To me, it's fine for the artist, I guess, if they feel they can put the award on their mantle or something and say, "Geez, I won whatever." It doesn't help you get to be a better artist. It doesn't give you more work to do. I mean, how many times do people get an Academy Award and just because of that they get their next job is guaranteed? That doesn't happen. So I don't know. I'm just.
Well, they go on to try to sell every other movie that they have anything to do with Academy Award nominee.
Well, that's the pitch to the public.
Yeah.
That are sold a bill of goods that means something.
Yeah.
Like the thing that really gets me is that this whole new thing, ever since Star Wars, I think, this film earned $5 trillion in its first 5 minutes of release. And that's public knowledge. It goes on the news. That goes there. Like, what the hell does that mean to the guy who's living in a lower middle class or poor or even a rich person? Unless you're backing the movie and you're making money off of it. What does that mean to people? Why do they got to list how much money it made on the weekend? What does that mean about the movie? Does it mean it's any good?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
A lot of movies that critics despise. Yeah. Did they assault Beethoven's Ninth Symphony?
Yeah. Yeah.
The people rioted in the theater when Stravinsky premiered The Rites of Spring, right? Like anyway, that's a whole other boom.
It's kind of crazy to think that people rioted over a piece of classical music.
Yeah, but I mean, it was that atonal and discordant, right?
Yeah, but
that they didn't. What is this?
Yeah,
it's like a pie in the face, I guess.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm gonna kind of go off the diving board here. You brought up Star Wars. You and I have had a lot of conversations about Star Wars, and those conversations aren't the typical fan conversations of Star Wars.
Thank you.
Right? A lot of people on here know you for Star Wars. A lot of people love the post you did. A lot of people love the Shadows of the Empire. So this line of questioning, and I can assure you, the line of answer is not meant to diminish any of that.
How can you diminish it?
Yeah, you can't. No matter what you say, you can't diminish it. But what does Star Wars mean to you?
I mean, I think I've did a couple of interviews with people that I kind of like. It's got nothing to do per se with the. Certainly, it's got nothing to do with the quality of the production in the new genre of the computer generation that was invented by John Dykstra et al. Who, then, like I say, talking about John Dykstra, he got on board with my brother and myself to do the special effects for Urshurak, our novel. He left, split with Lucas, and had his own company, Apogee, and he was doing Battlestar Galactica, the original Battlestar Galactica for television. And we connected with him with our pitch for our novel because we were trying to get Urshrack off the ground as a movie. But for me, what Star Wars means is I'd started writing my story with Tim.
Okay, what you've said the name a couple times. You started writing your story, Urshurak.
Urshurak.
Okay.
And we were defining all the characters. It's a quest. You got to be from here to there and get rid of the bad guy.
When did you start this? When was it?
After we did the third Lord of the Rings calendar.
Okay.
We thought maybe we said, well, the Lord of the Rings should be a film, and we saw it as a live action film, not as an animated film. And so we talked to Ian Summers, the art director at Ballantine Books, who had left now to go do his own book packaging company, and he was our agent now. And he said, let me look into it. And he found that, Saul Zaentz, Ralph Bakshi had optioned it, and they were doing it as an animated film. So I said to Tim, well, let's do our own movie. Let's write our own story.
Okay.
So the Ballantine calendar contract came for the fourth calendar. And we said, well, let's put it on a shelf for a little while. Let's hold them off. Let's see if we can develop a concept. So the contract sat there. They were calling, well, you're going to sign it. And I said, whoa, wait, I forgot what story I told them. I didn't tell them we were developing a story, our own concept. So we started working on it. The good guys, the bad guys. It's going to be a old magic, sword and sorcery genre, okay? Because we were so much into that for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years that let's just continue on and see if we can do something like that, kind of thing. And develop a series of characters and a basic storyline. So the key good guys was Ale1, the elf prince. He was like the blonde-haired, blue-eyed, long blonde hair, and white tunic, short tunic, white pants, white boots wrapped up. Elfgard, the magic sword, and then a team, the allied band, we ended up calling them, of Hugh Oxen, who was the everyman, sort of like, masculine guy, and then there was we insisted on women being powerful in the story, so we came up with a Gwyn. She was a brown elf. She and Eowyn were in a relationship, and then Zyra, the Amazon princess. They have the whole Southern Empire in our story, and we had this hairy guy, Ulu, who was a Gwarpy. That's her name for the race that he belonged to, and he was like 7 foot tall, big, tall, hairy guy. And then we had 2 dwarfs, twin brothers. Tim and I patterned after ourselves, just in terms of we got to get twins in here. And a Norse kind of a guy, white guy, and then a black king from the Black Empire. So we had all these different races. We decided that we didn't just want to do it all Norse, like the Lord of the Rings kind of like thing. Would mix it racially and ethnically, and females being really predominant too in terms of power. And so we started on that path, and then we created our bad guys, this whole the orcs and the Borgs and the trolls and then our evil elves and then our the Death Lord of Golgarath, the evil zone that they had to get to destroy, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Only he was Torgon, the Death Lord, and in our story, Torgon was Eowyn's ancestor. So they were related in centuries past, but they're connected. So only Eowyn, can finish him off. And now Torgon's a 7 foot tall. We've drawn all this out now. Remember the 7 foot hairy guy?
Yeah.
And we've drawn Eowyn's got all the white short tunic, and we draw the Torgon. We paint pictures of him, and he's all clothed in black robes and armor and mail. And he's got all gauntlets. There's no skin showing him. You put a helmet on him so you can't see his face, given that the whole idea of terror is best unseen. So you got to imagine what's behind that mask. He had horns and all that stuff, but nonetheless, he was completely helmeted and covered in clothes, and tall and related to Airwan. And then we get a panic call to go pick up the poster at the ad agency because we had come through for them a couple of years before with a poster that never got used, but we did a painting overnight. And they remembered that, I guess, and then they called us. We got a science fiction movie here, the guy says. The film's coming out in a week. We need a poster. There is a poster, but the director's not completely satisfied with it. Could you guys come and do it, please? Please, they're begging us to come and do this thing because it had to be done. The newspaper ad stuff had to start running in a few days, you know?
Yeah.
And so we went into the city, and there they showed us the Tom Young poster, which was the very first one of the two figures and the Darth Vader's head in the sky and everything. Well, it was very grayed down, beautiful,
Yeah.
much more subtle. And I said, well, what do you want? He said, well, we want this same setup, but the director wants it more comic booky. Now then I start showing us all the pictures. I says, who the hell is the helmeted guy? And they didn't know. The guys at the agency hadn't seen the film. So they said, I don't know, it's a man in the iron mask or something. But I'm thinking of, there's this guy, all black armor and cape. He's our Torgon. And I'm looking at who was Luke Skywalker. I didn't know his name yet because they didn't know their names. They were just giving us photos.
Yeah.
And there he is with the blonde hair and the short tunic. He was dressed exactly like our character. I already painted, drawn pictures. Now you got to get, nobody had seen the information that Tim and I were drawing, except Tim and me.
Yeah.
It never moved out of my studio. No one came there to see. So it wasn't out in the world at all. Then the tall, hairy guy. And I'm looking at these pictures. I said, what the hell? And I freaked out. I mean, I really did. It was like a total collision. I mean, I just did. They gave us all the stuff. We went home, painted the picture in 36 hours. And I was flummoxed and flabbergasted. And I kept working on my story and designing characters. We were writing it in the form of a storyboard, so we kept it up. The film was released. I got invited, Tim did too, to go to the New York premiere. Tim went, I didn't. I couldn't deal with it. I mean, I'm visualizing, I'm saying, what is this? Maybe the film will disappear. I don't know. In my mind, I'm thinking maybe it'll be a flash in the pan and it'll go away and I'll just keep doing my story here. And that'll make it, Yeah. It obviously didn't do that. The world went freaking, and you weren't born yet, right? How old were you? No, you weren't.
Yeah, it was just like, when did it come out, in 77?
Yeah.
I was 1.
The world went nuts. I mean, it's like AC, AD, and BC. Literally, it was like that kind of an impact on film and entertainment. It just went freaking insane. And obviously, then Tim and I got swept up into the mania. And I kept saying to people, I just did a poster. I had nothing to do with the film. And so I kept making that apologetic. And I said, and Tom Young did the first poster. I did this one after the fact. I kept explaining it. There was nobody cared. You did it. That image got recognized highly, the one that we did, because it ended up as a product.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, I got it. My throat's
Yeah.
The agreement that we had with the ad agency it was supposed to be used for newspaper ads in this one sheet outside the theater, but it got used for product. I mean, everybody's walking around with T-shirts and you name it. You know, it was everywhere. And so and it still is. So we got swept up, and the magazines are calling us and coming in, Us Magazine, and shooting Tim and me, putting costumes on and clowning around and doing stuff like that. And then there wasn't much work that came out of it. Like, there wasn't a lot of call. Yeah, everybody had to do. Now we're continuing to work on Urshurak. And Ian started to even talk with us. Well, maybe we should turn it into a space opera. And I said, what are you talking, Ian? It's all done. This is old magic. I'm not going to. That's there already. Because it's the same storyline. Yeah. All epic quests of this nature are the same story.
The hero's
gather together and they blow up the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's James Bond is every damn one of them. That's what it is. You start here, go there, get rid of the bad guy. Comes back, everybody has a party. Yeah. But basically, that's the structure. As simple as that. Yep. Now, what do you do with all that in between? What kind of characters and bits and pieces and all this kind of stuff do you create is the issue.
Yeah.
And so I said, no, we're sticking with it. He said, okay, fine. So we're sticking with the old magic, the fantasy format. And then we went to Hollywood for the ABA. They were pitching the book, ready to announce it. And Ian had made arrangements and connections to go to John Dykstra's studio in Apogee and Van Nuys. It was in an industrial park where they had shot all the first Star Wars special effects. And then I went in there. John was fantastic. I mean, I haven't talked to him in years, but he's still, doing film. And he was great. His whole team, all the people, they were incredible. I was always a special effects fanatic since I was a kid. I mean, Tim and I both were nuts about special effects. And so they were really showing us. They were still using a lot of miniature sets and everything, and miniature rockets, and showing us. He had this Dijkstraflex camera. I forgot what kind. It wasn't a Mitchell. It was another kind of camera on a rod and everything on a track. And there's the spaceships out there, and there's cameras here, and there's a blue screen, and all the cables running off of the camera to a big bank of computers over here. I never took any pictures. I wish I would have had pictures of that whole setup. But there it is. Go to the camera. There's a little plate on the camera. It says Dijkstraflex. And well, he's the guy. They invented it, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And so they gave us a tour, and then we went to they were shooting at Universal at the sound stages for the live action stuff, and they took us there, and we toured all that. Anyway, that's Star Wars for me. You ask, it's a long answer to a short question. What is Star Wars for you? So for me, Star Wars is all that very highly personal, professional, and personal thing. That's got nothing to do with, geez, I like that movie. It's got nothing, it's got nothing to do with that, really. Geez, I don't like that movie. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And certainly, I mean, I'm not a fan like people. Why should I be? My son was 7 years old when it came out. He's the fan.
Yeah.
My Star Wars is Disney's Pinocchio, Fantasia, the Diva Baghdad, the one I just mentioned earlier. Those are all my Star Wars, because those are the movies that.
Give me that book.
Urshurak.
Yeah. So this is Urshrack. This is very early printing, so it's like
1977.
This is the first printing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the print's not great.
78.
You can see that right there's the main character there. Over here's the hairy dude.
Yeah, we had to shrink them. So what we did, because once we saw the film, and I'm continuing to work on this and do all the illustrations, inside the book, which are many. There's Zyra, the Amazon princess. She just killed a gargoyle, one of the troops of the Torgon, the Death Lord, and we continue to work on it. And the film's out. The world's going crazy. We continue on we did this whole thing in 3 years. And we're still doing the story, and I'm keeping the helmet on Torgon all through my story and my drawings and concepts and thinking. Finally, it gets time. Finally, we're going to do the final art for the final printing, and I took Torgon's helmet off, and kind of like all the steam went out of it for me. Once you removed it, was just another ugly face. There's a million of those.
Yeah.
The fact of the unknowing and that really, and then I had, of course, took the 7-foot Gorpy, which was less disastrous for me, and turned them into a short little guy. That no big deal. But then you can see the ale one. See him, there's a blonde-haired guy, and there's Hugh over here. He's like I wouldn't call it the Han Solo relationship. Whoops. Damn, I'm knocking the joint. Pause. But nonetheless, all that was going on. And so for me, it's a very complex, non-simple situation. When people come up to me at a convention and they say, I just got to let you know, I'm a big Star Wars fan. And I kind of like, well, okay, fine, good, you're a Star Wars fan. I'm glad for you, and I'm glad for everybody that made that movie and everybody that had anything to do with it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But
doesn't affect you on the day-to-day.
No, it has no bearing. And I'm glad to do it. If people do ask me to do commissions and stuff,
Yes,
they're fine, because I'm a professional. I'm an illustrator. And, that's what I do.
I see we get some conversation going on over here in the side. So I am going to check out some of your comments, see if there's any questions. North Free says, hail Greg, Keith, and the mighty chat. Some person, hey, welcome back. Some person, Greg, this is a great question. I'm going to steal it from you. Was there ever a time when you stopped making art?
Oh, yeah. After I pitched Urshurak and used up all my money, which those are the days before I met Jean, before she was my agent, and I was using my own money. And what's the word? If you're pursuing a film project, it's OPM. you know, it's other people's money you should use, not your own, because you'll run out of it. Because the chances are that, yeah, and so once that I crashed and burned, almost burned, and but I really did crash. I was completely depressed because I've said this before. You know, so if you start, and I've done a lot of stuff. I did a lot of stuff up to this point. You know,
Yeah.
fandom art that I did with the Lord of the Rings and the poster and children's book illustration and documentary filmmaking and animation and you name it, I did it. But never went to Hollywood to try to get a feature film off the ground. And I went through the William Morris agency, was our agent, and they were pushing it and working and getting producers involved. And it looked like it was going to keep going, but most of the studios were terrified of trying it out because the space opera thing was so vogue now and so huge that it was a risky thing. You know, Hollywood doesn't like to take big chances. I don't think,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Some do, individuals do, but not. I've seen it, generally speaking, you know, turn this into a space opera. You know, and I kept insisting that it should be this magic thing. You know, and you know, fantasy, medieval-esque, whatever. And so Conan was underway. The Conan, the Arnold Schwarzenegger film, and I had met the gentleman who had got that film off the ground. Ed Summers was his name. He ran Super Snipe Comic Gallery downtown New York, and Ed and I became, and Tim became, and Ian became, and Summers became friends. And Ed was very much involved with genre, and had spent, I don't know, 10 years clearing up the Howard Estate rights to get the film made. And then, of course, when it came to the end, I mean, I think it was pretty much taken out of his hands. He's got, if you watch the film, he's got a tiny credit way at the end somewhere. But he's the guy that spent the whole life time getting that off the ground. So he was kind of like coaching us through the process of Urshurak and you know, through the agencies and the studios and everything. Finally, they were afraid to, most studios were afraid to try it, even though they were behind our story. We had taken on a kind of like an idealistic story of the unification of all the different nationalities and races to come together. You know, you know what I mean? That was the main gist of what our story was. Let's get off our shit and let's come together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We are one. That's really what was the basic underground of my belief system and hopes that I could convey that through this fantasy novel. The facade was this fantasy world, you know, but the internal story for me was that. And they could see that. A lot of the young I remember execs from various studios. Tom Mount, for some reason, sticks in my mind. He was a Universal guy, big guy, main guy. He comes up to me, I'm all for this. I'm really with this, the concept, the storyline. But you know what I mean? The chances are, and I think Heaven's Gate was underway, and Heaven's Gate sank, I guess, United Artists. And there were 3 execs from Heaven's Gate watching our pitch, which was like a little mini movie, which I still have, which I spent a lot of money to try to get, just to try to explain. And the 3 of them headed for the door. It was almost like the 3 Stooges getting jammed into the door to get the hell out of there. I mean, it was just, you know, this thing. Joseph E. Levine, fantastic name for people who know film history, you know, incredible. He made big films. He had just done Bridge Too Far film with his Gabe Katzka, his partner. And they were at the final screening of the William Morris agency. It was like this big talk. Joseph E. Levine's coming to see the pitch. So we finally make it there that day. And I got this, you know, video. And all these agents are talking. Well, he doesn't like to be called Mister unless you know, Joe, unless you know him. You got to call him Mister. There's all this talk going on. All these agents in the theater where we're going to show the pitch, and the door opens up, and there comes Joseph E. Levine and Gabriel Katzka, his partner. And to my mind, there was nothing but Mr. Levine, as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
All these agents start talking at him. It was like a movie itself. Levine holds his hand up. He goes like, "They all shut up." He points. Which one of you is going to do the talking? It was like, whoa! It was incredible. I was like totally terrified, not of him, but of the whole Hollywood. I was fish out of water.
Yeah.
I mean, I sit here and do this stuff, you know, how artists are, and I was not an outward guy like that. I mean, I thought obviously I was out in the world and working, but not, especially if it's your own project and you're in there with all this huge world of Hollywood, you know, and I just kept getting more and more and more freaked. And by this point, I was really, my eyes must have been spinning. And I was at my hippie-looking worst. I looked like Ben Gunn out of Treasure Island. And I'm in this room and Levine was across the room. I shook his hand initially. Then we watched the pitch. He said, what I saw on the screen is going to, he applauded it first. Big applause. He said, what I saw on the screen is going to cost $145 million to make. And you get Star Wars, it was just made for $10 million. Dykstra was saying he could do it for $30 million. Levine said it's going to cost $145 million. Because Levine was thinking about not CGI so much. He was, him and Gabriel Casca started talking, well, we can go to the Yugoslavia, we get the Yugoslavian army, they can be the extras. That's the way they were talking. So, but they said $145 million. And he kept looking at me across the room with all these guys. Finally made his way over to me, and he put his arm on my shoulder, kind of like in a fatherly, grandfatherly way. And he says, are you sure you want to get involved with this? Really kind of like that. Like, are you sure you really want? And I said, well, I've been working on this thing for 3 years, and he said, yeah, no, I know, and I can see you're going to take it to whatever point. I got that. Well, he hands me his card. He says, if you want, he says, give me a call. I got a film coming out, and there's need some artwork in it. I never called him. Oh. Which, you know, one time you say, well, what the hell is that? But then again, if I had called him, my whole career would have gone another direction, or I never met Gene.
Maybe.
So that's my, so the next day after that meeting, the next day, the William Morris agency calls up the agent over there and says, how does it go, Greg? Don't throw good money after bad, or don't throw bad money after good. We're pulling out. So bam, I'm left high and dry and spinning like in the wind. Of, you know, you're sitting there, your room, and you're thinking, oh my God, where do I go now? Now what do I do? The whole thing collapsed. It came to an end. And I just sat. This is a long answer. Did you ever stop working?
That's great. This is a great answer to have you ever stopped working.
And I stared, and I hadn't done almost no work after I finished all the art for the book and all the pitch period. I had almost done nothing, illustration, painting wise. And then when it crashed, I was so perplexed. There's the old concept of if you go to Hollywood, you know, if you're an artist and you head to Hollywood and you fail, there's nothing to do except keep walking west into the ocean and drown yourself. And that's literally what I felt like. I was like, I just couldn't, I was immobilized. I was completely and totally depressed. I didn't know what to do, which way to go, what, you know. And then Gene entered my life, and that everything started on a gradual ascent. And it's still that way, gradually ascending. Yeah. But I went for a long period, maybe 4, 5, 6 months without working, 6, 7 months.
Wow.
So anyway,
so 6 to 7 months.
The cute little thing I drew this morning, though, that's the Sugar Plum Fairy. He's bringing you cream puffs and candies, but he likes to eat a lot of them himself, and he gets all slopped up and messed up. So a lot of it might not get there, too, you know. I like to do that kind of stuff. That turns me on, and it just comes from nowhere. You know, we all sit and doodle. Yep. And I love the doodling aspect of things. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, another. I'm jumping around right now, but another great. I can't wait to see. It's coming out in a couple of days. I guess what theater one days is Del Toro's Nightmare Alley.
Yes.
Which is a primal movie for me. I saw that film, the original with Tyrone Power, when it came out. I think it was 48, 49, and I was born in 39, so I was either 9 or 10 years old. And that film was a heavy-duty movie, even back then. I mean, when you look at that version now, where film has gone, it's very tame.
Yeah.
But the content of it's film noir at its noirist. And my dad loved those kinds of films. He would take Tim and me out to not only the heavy-duty ones. I remember going and seeing Grapes of Wrath. I guess it's a heavy duty. It's heavy duty. So yeah, you know.
It's a little light. Reading.
So I do a series of posters that I'd like to have done. That was one rough take that I did on Tyrone Power, he's also the man and the beast, and the geek, which I understand Del Toro has changed in this film. I would guess, I haven't read anything about it, but the geek is too much now meaning something that it didn't mean in the story. The original use of the word, which is like the guy that's been through everything and destroyed his life and has been murderer, you name it, alcoholics, it ends up there's no other job that you have except to go to the carnival and get the job as the geek. That's the guy that bites the heads off of live chickens for the thrill of the crowd, you know. So, but that stuck with me, and I didn't really grasp what the hell the movie was as a kid. You don't understand all the themes in it: psychiatry, religion, charlatanism, all of it, you know. And now I'm really looking forward to see what Del Toro did with it. I haven't really looked at too much of it because I don't want to really have anything until I see the movie by itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever, but that's.
Yeah, I mean, the trailer looks really cool.
Yeah, looks fantastic.
All right. So, some person, yeah, you're great at caricaturing. Your sketchbook could be published. That is absolutely true. You have no idea. You really have no idea. Stacks and stacks and stacks of stuff. It's all wonderful. North Free says, cool, movie poster roughs originals. Also, North Free. Greg, which painting did you and or your brother create that has given you the greatest satisfaction over the years?
There's nothing. There's no one thing. It's not. And I always give the pat answer that people ask, what's your favorite picture you've ever done? And I always say the next one. Which I mean that. I mean, George Pell, one of my favorite filmmakers, I read that's what he would always say when they ask what's your favorite movie, or the worlds, when worlds collide, what the hell ever. He would say the next one. And I kind of swiped that from him. But what greatest satisfaction? I don't know. I've had a lot of satisfaction all over the place. I can't name one thing. You know, doing Urshurak was a great satisfaction.
Yeah.
Working on the books for Genie's publishing company to pick all the classic stories that I illustrated. That was extremely satisfying. I mean, I can't say that I ended up with one painting that was the most satisfying. I mean, some of the dream stuff, like the painting that got used by Black Sabbath for their Mob Rules cover, is one of the paintings I look at to say that I wouldn't touch, I wouldn't do anything to, I wouldn't change it, even though I want to paint it bigger. You might not be able to see it. There's a white canvas underneath this one that's about it's good size. I'm going to paint that picture over again, because when I did that painting, that again got named Mob Rules painting, but it's not. It wasn't painted for them. It's a personal painting of a nightmare I was having for a period that I was going through. All kinds of heavy duty stuff and everything changing, and all philosophy, religion, politics, you name it. And I just got out of my system and got it down and painted onto a piece of illustration board with the concept that eventually I would paint that big.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, God knows I did that 40 something years ago, 45 years ago. So Gene put it on the list of paintings and projects that are next, and so that one's on the list, and so I'll be starting that soon.
You got to be looking forward to that.
Yeah, I am, and yet I'm kind of like fearful of it too at the same time.
I was wondering.
Because it's like I can't just I don't want to just copy the painting I did.
Yeah.
So I've got to get myself back into the time frame, into the mindset and what I was going through, to bring something else to it. I don't know what that is. I don't want to know what it is, not until I start it. Something will start to occur, I believe, as I start to do it. That's the way shit happens for me.
Yeah.
You know, you get a basic broad view of something, concept, idea, through a glass darkly, so to speak, and then pursue it, and it starts to speak to you, become clearer and clearer. You know, it's like when you create a character.
Yeah.
You're a writer, I was doing the same, you know. That character starts to invent itself. And that happens with me with these drawings. Like that little cutesy guy that I drew this morning, Keith and I get on to it. We just invented all of his motions and attitudes and actions, and he became a real person. You know, you can just see that. There he is. He's real. You know, he tells you what he should do. So I'm hoping that that's what will happen.
So you did that one a long time ago, and then this, it was from 2008. Do you do that often? Like, sketches and ideas that then get shelved for extended
Yeah, I got
time?
piles of them. This room is filled with boxes. There's plastic containers that deep with stuff that's, some of it's 25, 30 years old. You know, that I keep pulling out and looking at, and it I know it'll make, some of it'll make, not all of it, but some of it will make the light of day. Yeah, it'll arrive at some point.
Yeah.
You know, of completion, whatever.
For some reason, it stayed fresh. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Keep it going. Oh man, mine went blank. I was going to ask you something after that. Do we have any more questions? We're almost to 5 o'clock.
Holy crap.
We're at 4:50. So anybody that's tuned in watching, okay, North Free question: do you ever have the desire to illustrate something like Tolkien or Star Wars again? And you keep going back to pinups. Question.
Yeah, the pinups are always there. No, I don't want to. If I could, I will always. Not always, but Gene, people call. They want jobs done. You know, it's either do me a picture of Spider-Man, what the hell ever. I just did a thing for Marvel. You know, a trading card, a 9-block thing. You know, I'll do those. But more and more. I'm not going to cut off anything else. You know what I mean? Never say never. But I would prefer to head in the twilight of my life, you know, to personal concepts, ideas so I would never do illustrate a story, somebody else's story again. I kind of like, you know, I might do one painting or a drawing or something, but I would never illustrate the whole thing. Only my story. I got a half a dozen of them that I've been writing and working on for 30 years.
Yeah.
So those that much sooner see the light of day than somebody else's. Why not? Why shouldn't they? You know?
Yeah. Why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't they have that opportunity? You know, if their projects get to see the light of day,
right,
through your help,
right.
Why,
so no, I've got a lot of them. So I would prefer to just pursue. The thing about that is, though, you know, that's always the risk because you know that's completely a gamble.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying you to do it. You've got to take and when I say gamble, I mean time. Time is always the issue. This stuff takes time. You know, you can't just, you know, it's easy. Don't get me wrong. One thing is not easier than the other, but a writer can write, the Roman legion marched over the hills and into the valley. Hand it to an illustrator. It took that long to write that line. How long is it going to take an illustrator to paint a Roman legion marching down the valley? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like time consuming as hell. So that's risky.
Yep.
Because you're going to gamble and say, I'm going to put a year or two into this thing.
Yeah.
And it might not make a penny. Nobody might not want it. Might not publish it. Might not, you know, whatever. You know?
But you work on that stuff in the backgrounds.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're more prolific than anyone I've ever heard of.
You know, it's an obsessive compulsive thing. It's like, because it's like I haven't got it right yet. That's the title of the show. I don't ever feel that about anything, and I haven't got it all out of my system, body, brain, wherever it exists yet. There's a lot of stuff there, you know. Mm-hmm. And that trap door that keeps opening in my brain, in the top of my head, and that stuff falls out of it. Those ideas, they just keep coming. You know, it's like you don't want to stop it. So it's like
I doubt that you've ever heard of this musician. His name's Henry Rollins. He started in like hardcore punk bands and then, you know, heavier rock and roll. Now he does more like spoken word stuff and you know, different journalism, things like that. He's moved on with his career. When asked why, he said, you know, like he literally just woke up one morning and said, I don't have any more lyrics to write.
There you go.
That's how it was for him. He just woke up and was
That's
like,
it. That can happen.
I'm out.
Yeah.
But I mean, he's always busy and doing things,
Sure.
but he's no longer in music.
Well, I mean, yeah.
But your ideas just keep...
Shit keeps happening, but it isn't always the same thing. It's all over the place, you know? Yeah. Like I said earlier to you, it's from the ridiculous to the sublime.
Yeah.
You know? It's really stupid stuff, and you have fun with stupid stuff. You have fun with. You're trying to always come up. What painting can I do that will change the world for the better? As though that's possible.
Yeah.
Yet I think it is. I'd be a fool. I think it's about, art is that. I mean, the film. I think we talked about this last week. The electrical world of Lewis Wayne, the Cumberbatch movie.
Yeah.
It's art. There's two scenes in there that really talks about the importance of art, and what because you start the artist starts to go, what value is this, and that really lays it out. And I think, but it's always about just letting it flow, just letting what the hell ever happens, happens, and not criticizing it yourself. Just get it out of your system from the ridiculous sublime. I was listening to, on a weekend again, one of my favorite ridiculous sublime pieces of Procol Harum, in Held 'Twas in I. You ever hear of it?
I don't know.
It's like a 17-minute piece. It was originally on, I think, Shine On Brightly album. But the album that I first heard it on was Procol Harum live with the Edmonton Symphony Orchestra. So you have this full orchestra with a choir, and this thing moves from. I mean, listen to it.
I'll listen to it.
It's totally. I mean, it's all over the place, and like just moves from one thing to another. It's like it's amazing. It never. To me, it holds up, and this is what I think that album came out in '71.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's kind of like I can relate to that. Kind of like that's my whole career is like that. It's all over the up and down, and stuff keeps happening.
So, just a quick question. I've been thinking about talking about Urshrack, and you're talking about bringing all the different races and all that. It never. I don't know why it never occurred to me, but would you say that the experiences that you had in the '60s then, and prior to that, of going around the world filming all the stuff, seeing the demonstrations, then directly
Totally.
Yeah.
That's where I drew it all from. That's what was all there in my head. Yeah, it was like a last hurrah of the idealism of. I'm not talking about the bad aspect of it, what it degenerated into, and the confrontations and the drugs and everything, but the high dream of the dawning of the age of Aquarius thing, that the world could be made into a better place, and people can come together, the unification aspect of coming together. Yeah, that's what Urshurak is for me. That's what it is, and that's what it came from, my life experiences.
There's a very bitter irony in that, like that book then is the culmination of your hopes and your desires of all of that stuff. That's what you want to come out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end of the day, you get a round of applause.
That's it. And you get some reviews, and some of the reviews are really good. I mean, some of the reviews are really good. People really dug it a lot. It was
a bestseller, New York Times bestseller.
Yeah, well, whether it was a bestseller or not, the thing is that some reviewers just tore it apart. It's superficial. It's weak fantasy. It's I don't know what they were looking for, but that's fine and dandy. Everybody's got their opinion. Well, many people said one guy, one German. I was in Germany doing a show years ago. They had asked us to come there, and he came. It changed his life. He said so. It's like that. He changed his life. I mean, some people, and that's great to hear. Even if it was one person.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about it is, though, the problem becomes if you do just only the superficial format of the thing, it just looks like everything else.
Yeah.
If you're not trying to read underneath of it what's trying to be conveyed, then you miss a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, like all good, science fiction writing, it's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's a metaphor. That's basically what it is. Most great science fiction and fantasy is that, right?
Yep. All right.
And I never metaphor I didn't like. Sorry about that. Bada boom.
Cole C., what is your favorite thing on sale on the website?
Yours or mine? I don't have favorites. I never talk about favorites ever. Never. I don't. It's not my thing.
I'm gonna spin off of that. Do you have a fondness, or is it something that you even consider all the merchandising stuff of your work? Like, do you have any product that you're like, oh wow, that's really cool?
I'm sure I do somewhere. I mean, you probably know that I do or don't because I mean we talk about this kind of stuff all the time. But nothing leaps into my mind readily. You know,
I don't know that I do.
I don't. Nothing.
Oh wait, yes.
Okay.
It's the ridiculous. It wasn't technically licensed. Was it the tapestry or the rug of the winged messenger?
Oh my God, yes. I have it. I got to pull that down for next week. I got it around somewhere. I got it at some junk store, one of these head shops back in the day. Back in the day, you know, there was a tapestry of this angel of the gods. We called it. It was a poster originally for Verkerk, a Dutch publisher, and then it appeared in Heavy Metal magazine in 1982, in February '82. In fact, Heavy Metal magazine is reprinting that same picture for February 1982, and I'll be painting another variation on that later on for them. And plus, they're going to be printing a lot of my covers that I did with Gene in the '80s. But the thing that Keith is talking about is I found this cheesy ass, cheap, felt, cheesy felt thing with this printed on it with all kinds of like I don't know iconic some designs around the border of it. You know, it was one of those places where they used to sell laminated clocks with John Wayne's head on it or something. And that poster though it made it to me when I walked into one of those shops because there was a laminated clock with John Wayne's head. There was a laminated clock with Jesus's head. There was a laminated clock with Kennedy's head, and there was a laminated clock with my Angel of the Gods poster all lined up together. And finally,
Mount Rushmore.
Kind of like boom, there it was, man. And in any event, but this one on the felt was really cheesy, and I love it. It's so flaky. I love it. But I always imagined it terrifyingly so. And what the hell was that? What that film? The Turkish jail film. I imagine it being hung in a Turkish jail. It was a film, Midnight Express, where this young guy gets grabbed, and it was based on a real person, carrying drugs,
yeah.
And he ends up in a Turkish jail. And I always imagine that picture hanging in this top cop's, office in that thing. I don't know why. It's just, oh my God, what if that was there? What if he had that thing? Holy shit. Sorry about that. I think weird stuff. See, is that sublime or ridiculous? Both.
Yeah. But regardless, whatever you're going to get on the website is going to be fantastic quality. If it's merchandise, everything is the way Gene handles every aspect of making sure everything is printed just right. That it's all beautiful and crisp and everything's gorgeous and top of the line. She doesn't make cheap shit. Pardon my language.
Pardon my language.
She doesn't.
No, she doesn't.
How backed up are you on commission requests currently? He's a little ways out. Email Gene, Jean, at spiderwebart.com, and she could tell you exactly how backed up he is on his commission list. All right. Is there a certain character? I think you already kind of answered this. A certain character is seen that you have not painted or drawn, but you would like to.
Oh yeah, I've got a lot of them in my head of characters that keep popping up.
Your characters,
yeah,
or other people's?
Mine, and that would take first place as far as I'm concerned right now, because they're mine. What the hell? And but no, I can't say outwardly. Somebody else's. No.
Yeah. Does the video presentation from Urshrack still exist?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's like it's got a narration. The thing is, we were pitching Urshurak before Joseph Levine, to through the William Morris Agency, the various producers. One of them was Alan Alda's producer. He produced, all of Alan Alda's movies, and he wanted to see our pitch, and this was before we put on video, and we were with the slide projector, projecting slides, and Tim and I would be acting out the story and narrating it as he sat in his office, and it kept jamming, and and I was getting all freaked, and he said, no, don't worry about it, just keep it up. He said, look, why don't you just get this thing on video, put it on video so I don't have to worry about that. And so then I left there and working with other people, I decided let's do that. So I mean, we already got our advance on Urshurak, the book from Bantam. Bantam give us a good sized advance, which had to be divided 4 ways, and I was using mine up to pursue this film and make this video. So I kept putting it together, and we wrote a narration, got a narrator, narrated it, all professional, and got some rough music plopped in, and to add to it, and some sound effects, and panned over all the paintings that we had done for the book, along with a bunch of other storyboards, and along with other comps and magic marker roughs, telling the whole story, and a map we were just before this, we were working on a TV commercial, Tim and me, with a director. It was a special effect TV commercial, and we were doing some of the special effects in it, and he came and watched our pitch in my studio and watched us narrate it and try. He said, "No, simplify." He kept cluing us into simplifying everything down so that it was understandable. Because once you start to pitch one of these fantasy epics with all these names that nobody ever heard of, it isn't like you say you're going from Czechoslovakia to France. I mean, that you understand,
Yeah.
Well, maybe, but you do more than this. You're going from Alfendal to Asmuria. What's that? Where's it? So you gotta say. He kept cluing us and coaching us how to simplify it. So the narration reads readably and understandably, and it's not a finished piece of work. It's kind of clunky, but it's there. It's there. It's still there.
Is there any chance that the public might be able to see it one day?
I don't know. We have to talk to Gene about that.
All right.
Talk to the boss.
Let's see what kind of format it's in. Might be able to make that
It's
happen.
on a tape. It's on a,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It says you spoke of using other people's money to fund your dreams. Will you use Indiegogo or Kickstarter in the future? I bought the Tolkien Years Hildebrandt book through Dynamite on Indiegogo. I can answer this question for you. Okay. Greg has helped, Nick Barucci from Dynamite out on his Kickstarter, a couple of them. But as of right now, you can never say never, but as of right now, Gene, who handles all the business stuff, does not like the idea of getting outside funding to be able to make something. She will make something before the funding happens, but to do that, she's using her own funds. And that's just kind of her standard. I personally don't see her going off of that.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, but you can never say never.
No, you can never say never.
But so, yeah, with you getting the Tolkien Years book, they were doing that to help out Nick.
Yeah.
Do you have any holiday traditions? Fun question.
Well, yeah, Gene and I decorate the house, and I've always decorated, even before Gene. But we do it. She's always told that Christmas to her is the main day of the year. She spends months and months buying and looking for gifts for people, and I mean, it's a never stop thing for her. So that the tree is right now it's piled high with gifts for various people. The whole house is all decked out, so we enjoy that. And then we watch holiday movies. I mean, both of us love. The main one I think that we both love together is Scrooge, called Scrooge originally, which is of course derived from Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. But this is the 1951 film with Alistair Sim. It's a black and white movie. It's beautifully done. It's moving. That's my favorite. That's her favorite. Of course, I love A Christmas Story.
Yes.
Gene Shepherd's masterpiece. That's a given every year. I like Miracle on 34th Street. Gene and I love Miracle on 34th Street. What the hell other ones? Oh, Nightmare Before Christmas. I love Nightmare Before Christmas. I mean, I love stop motion. I love the artistry of it. I mean, Yeah, so we have those kinds of traditions. You know, plus Christmas dinner, people, etc. and so forth.
Yeah. Christmas.
Christmas.
Very good. And then no questions for me. Just a Merry Christmas and a good New Year from Scotland.
Ah, Merry Christmas
Merry
to you,
Christmas to you
Scotland.
as well. All right, man. So we are at 5:10. And I'm glad somebody mentioned the sale that was going on. Again, it's running through the end of the year. Everything, practically everything on the website is discounted to some degree. Some of it is already marked. If it's not marked, the discount is processed manually. That means in-house before the transaction goes through, we run the discount here. It's an older website. We apologize for that inconvenience. Sign up for the mailing list, and so you could see all of the percentages that are off all of the different things. Email reminders of that sale are going out. One went out today. One's going out again tomorrow. So if you're not, go to spiderwebart.com. Pop-up will come up. Sign up for a mailing list so you can see all of the different offers. All right. Everybody, thank you for tuning in.
Thank you very much.
Truly appreciate it, and have a great night.
Merry Christmas. Well, we'll be on before Christmas.
One more time, yeah.
One more time.
All right.
Adios.
Bye, folks.